Battlefront II 2017 has one of the most notorious launches in video game history. Its near gambling loot box system didn't even last through the beta due to the community outcry. It also led to the most downvoted Reddit comment ever, with 667,000 downvotes today. Despite all of that, Star Wars Battlefront II is one of my favorite games ever, even after its cancellation in April of 2020. To help explain why I love it so much, let's travel back to 2005, where a new generation of Star Wars fans was forming. Star Wars Battlefront II 2005 is the game that I and many others consider to be the start of our Star Wars journey. I was born at an awkward time for developing Star Wars fans, 2002. Born a little too late to enjoy the prequels in the early 2000s, as well as all the content released alongside it, including the Battlefront series. Luckily for me, my dad had a PlayStation 2, and was a moderate Star Wars fan, having grown up in the 70s and 80s. One of my earliest memories ever is playing Battlefront 2 split screen mode with my dad on a Saturday morning. I'm not even sure that I had seen the movies before I played the game, but I absolutely loved Star Wars from that point on. I especially enjoyed playing Hunt mode on Hoth, and trying to survive the Wampas as long as I could, which was terrifying as a 5-year-old. This game was the first video game I had ever played, and as I got older, I started to enjoy the campaign and its excellent story, as well as creating challenges for myself when the game got too easy. I would queue up an instant action playlist and play as a rebel trooper trying to do his part to save the galaxy, or a lowly stormtrooper trying to rank up in the Empire. Don't even get me started on Galactic Conquest, which feels like a board game to take over the galaxy, but where you fight every single battle on every single planet, which is basically every 10-year-old's dream. This game has so many cool features, and I could go on forever about it, but the truth is, it's old now. Even though it can be fun to go back and play for a while, the graphics aren't good compared to 2024, obviously, and it just doesn't feel the same as it did when I was a kid, especially now that I've tasted modern games. Don't get me wrong, this game is freaking awesome. It's like $10 on Steam, go try it out if you haven't. Even just the campaign is worth it. Battlefront II 2005 started my love for Star Wars, and I will forever love it for that. But let's jump forward to 2017, 12 years later. Before I get into Battlefront II 2017, it's worth noting that there are two other Battlefront games I haven't mentioned. Star Wars Battlefront, the first installment of the series, released in 2004. I did not play this game as a kid, and haven't as an adult. From what I gather, it's a solid game that walked, so the 2005 version could run. The second game, Star Wars Battlefront 2015, was a sort of reboot of the series, echoing the release of The Force Awakens, also in 2015. This game, I played a lot of. It's another solid game, worth mentioning, but I believe both of these games fall short of their sequels, which is why I'm kind of glossing over them here. Battlefront 2017 had so much riding on its shoulders. The Force Awakens and Rogue One were considered by many, including myself, to be great movies that were a lot of fun. Movies that I could tell my kids one day. I saw this in theaters back in 2015. Battlefront 2 came out right before The Last Jedi, similarly to the release of Battlefront 2015 and The Force Awakens. This time, though, the developers had a whole new era to pull content from, the sequels, and it was exciting. And probably the most hype thing of all, Clone Wars content. Yep, this game would have content from all three eras of Star Wars at release, with more promised, something Battlefront 2015 didn't have. It brought back the old class system and promised a roster of fun heroes. But all good things must come to an end, and the old Reaper was knocking on the door. Battlefront 2 went through the biggest gaming controversy I have ever seen, and EA took a ton of fire. Rightfully so, as their loot box system heavily encouraged players to spend real money to unlock cornerstone characters, like Darth Vader, a character who should be unlocked very easily, if locked at all. I think the game was doomed no matter what happened from there from a development standpoint. The community had basically completely lost trust in the developers, and were not willing to spend money on the game beyond purchasing one copy to play it. I don't have any numbers to back this up, but but I'm sure a ton of people who would have bought the game never did because of the controversy. Hand in hand with all of this, The Last Jedi, to be frank, sucked. Star Wars hype was at an all-time low going into 2018. Battlefront 2 quickly improved, though, and became a bright spot in Star Wars content. Maybe this was planned, or maybe the devs changed their timeline just to appease the community, but Clone Wars content was heavily focused on for the next year or so. Getting to play on Geonosis and Felucia, 2 maps from 2005's Battlefront 2, was so awesome. New heroes, reinforcements, and game modes made the game feel truly special. More content was released, all for free, throughout 2019 and early 2020. And then EA made the unexpected decision to stop support of the game in April of 2020. So, why exactly do I love this game so much? Well, I think it truly captures the magic of Star Wars in a way no other game has for me. I played both Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which are 2 single-player games that EA also made. And while both of these games are excellent games and great Star Wars content, you don't get to play as Luke Skywalker, or participate in blowing up the Death Star, or cough like General Grievous does. You get these awesome moments in-game, where you're a rebel trooper running through Endor, and Darth Vader shows up out of nowhere, force chokes you and your squad, and you instantly die. When I play, I feel like a kid again, sitting next to my dad on the floor, shooting clankers on Geonosis, and trying to capture the next command post. Yes, it's more complex than its 2005 counterpart, but I'm older and more mature. I can handle more vehicles and reinforcements, more complex game modes and maps. Those things don't detract from the game, they just add to them. Even if you don't agree with that, the game's core is just as simple as the 2005 version. Run around, immersed in the story of Star Wars. If you're trying to judge this game based on its competitiveness or gun mechanics, or how balanced the different units and maps are, even though none of that is bad in this game, it's gonna fail you. Battlefront II 2017 allowed me to create stories in my head, just like the old game did. It allowed me to play as a fearless clone dying for his brothers on Kamino, or Darth Maul's identical twin who happens to sound exactly like him, trying to prove himself to Dooku. I think that's the magic of Star Wars. It's an epic story of heroes and villains, and all sorts of characters in between. Battlefront II 2017 allows me to play in that story, and that is enough for me to love it. It's not one of my favorite games because it's perfect. It's one of my favorite games because it's perfect for Star Wars, if that makes sense. I know I've been talking about Battlefront in the past tense, but Battlefront II 2017 is still very much alive. Yes, it's not being developed, but I don't have a problem finding a multiplayer server on PC, so if you play on Xbox or PS4, you shouldn't have a problem playing either. There are also a ridiculous amount of mods out there that are really fun to try out. They add new heroes, reinforcements, skins, guns, all sorts of stuff. And who knows, maybe there will be a Battlefront 3 one day. It seems unlikely, but after all, this is a memoir, not a tombstone.